and ESG goals. We also emphasize that companies should focus on SDG goals, but also to generate jobs and educate the local people. One way to do this within the Chamber is by promoting strategic pilot projects in emerging markets, together with Mustard Seed. And of course, we support European companies to do good, not only locally, but also internationally. So we encourage them to enter new markets and connect values, to share knowledge, share resources, but also share competences. Current and future challenges of a sustainable society require drastic societal change. Societal ecological transformation go beyond incremental change and technical innovation that are currently insufficient in dealing with the urgent and multiple challenges. These challenges require the analysis of social ecological transformations, of economic, political, social, and cultural processes, and the power relations that support them. But the goal to reach the SDGs will not be possible without reaching out to the upcoming generations. Young people play a key role in shaping the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and experience firsthand many of the issues it seeks to address. As paragraph 53 of the 2030 Agenda states, the future of humanity and our planet lies in our hands. It lies also in the hands of today's younger generation, who will pass the torch to future generations. In this regards, I welcome today all the panelists, which will share with us the experience and talk about building a better future and how to inspire youth engagements in the SDGs. So thank you very much, and I hope we will have an interesting and informative event today.
Thank you very much, Javier, for the welcome remarks to this webinar. And good morning, all. I am Svetlana. I am coordinator at the EU Tech Chamber. Today, I am calling from Nairobi. I will do a mini EU Tech intro in just a second, but for some house rules, if you cannot see the presentation, please restore the presentation by clicking on the bottom right icon on your screen. And now, Sierra, if you'd want to do the EU Tech intro, please. I'll welcome my colleague, Sierra, in the background. Okay. All right, then. I can see that Sierra is locked, so I'll just go ahead and do the EU Tech intro. Just a second as I share my screen. Sure. There seemed to be a slight technical hitch. I apologize for that. And if you have taken the presentation rights, please allow me to do the EU Tech presentation. IT, will you support me in this? Okay. All right. Then I'll do the EU Tech intro if there's no other. All right. So welcome to the SDG Alliance webinar. And this is the EU Tech Chamber. We have different alliances. The EU Tech Chamber is Europe's leading technology network. We have regional alliances, China, Africa, Latin America, and for the German-speaking Europe. For our tech alliances, we have IoT, mobility, energy, smart cities, environment, digital transformation, sustainable manufacturing, food farming and nutrition. Impact Alliances, where we are today at the SDG Alliance. There's also finance, climate action, women in tech. We are the #1 platform for technology exchange and business networking, over 200 webinars per year, more than 20 expos, hybrid events, plus virtual exhibition, and more than 50,000 registrants. #1 tech company in terms of networking meetings, at over 400 networking meetings per year. You can have access to speakers and panelists, business opportunities with dedicated meetings to exchange ideas on cooperations and projects, as well as unique access to EU tenders and worldwide funding in dedicated networking events. That is not all. This is the wider EU tech ecosystem, insights, white papers, position papers, Visions for Europe magazine. Please submit in your article how you're transforming society through science, innovation, and technology to reach 10,000 decision makers directly. Newsletters, you'll receive them each year. EU tenders, as previously introduced. Our programs include social media support, digital transformation, climate action, SDG awards, which will be coming on later in the year, on November 24th, and EU Tech Centers. Tech.forum, please set up your virtual booth. You can set up your virtual booth, hold an expo, and much more. To engage and benefit, please contact Marcus and Federico. Now I'll go back to the main room here, and I would like to introduce our panelists. We have Mr. Chibuna, who's already here with us. A great welcome to you, Chibuna. And then I'll start from Samuel. And just a second here. And Samuel Ajala, sorry. Samuel Ajala has 4 years of experience working as a data and development journalist, youth development enthusiast, and SDG advocate. He is the team lead of Development Advocacy Network International, a youth and community-based organization committed to promoting sustainable development in rural and undeserved areas across Africa through advocacy, civic media, partnership, and inclusion. The organization has impacted over 2,500 people in Nigeria, including students, youths, women, and elderly persons, through various projects and programs through its inceptions. And then I'll get back to Chibuna. Chibuna is the CEO and co-founder of Kiru Energy already. And we have Anthony Akpaso, who is committed to achieving energy sustainability in Nigeria and Africa, which has been identified to be linked to many other SDGs. In 2006, he founded Tonisha Enterprises Nigeria Limited, a company that backed Tonisha Energy to give energy access to over 600 million Africans in sub-Saharan Africa without access to clean and affordable energy. We have with us also Mr. Josh Edem Kojo-Dotse. Is a youth advocate for climate action at Heart Foundation, Ghana, a vibrant non-governmental organization engaged in energy, environmental governance, and climate policy processes, and a fellow at the United Nations Graduate Study Program in Geneva, Switzerland. Prior to these designations, Josh served as the African Continental Coordinator with Climate Science, a UK-based global charity that seeks to provide accessible, engaging, and reliable learning materials on climate change. Now I'll go back to the main room. Allow me to. And for this, please, I'd like to welcome you all to our meeting here today. Just some house rules. There's a public chat function on the upper left of your screen. Please use it to pose questions to the panelists also, as well as follow the conversations live. On the bottom right of your screen, there is there is a screen icon next to the hand signal. You can use it to restore presentation if the presentation doesn't load automatically. And now I'll start with our first panelist, Samuel. Samuel, I'm going to share my screen to show your presentation. I'll mute first and then I'll share my screen. If you see your presentation up, please take the stage.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, can you return this slide? Thank you very much. It's actually morning here, and it's just 8:14 a.m. here in Nigeria. I'm currently in Enugu State at the moment. I'm very excited to be here this morning, and thank you for inviting me for this section. So next slide, please. So my name is Samuel Jala. Like I was introduced. I'm a development and data journalist with over 4 years of experience covering climate change, energy transition, wash, and education. And I also have a youth-focused organization called DANI Africa, that's Development Advocacy Network International. And we are into promoting sustainable development in rural areas across Africa. But we're starting with Nigeria first, and we're starting from our local community because we understand the fact that sustainable development is actually is grassroots personified. Yeah, because development means different things to different communities based on different issues they actually face. Next slide, please. So how I started DANI Africa. Basically, I started DANI Africa while I was on campus, and it was basically a group of over 20 youths here in the school community who were actually tired about the state of underdevelopment in their school local community. Because we got to experience that a lot of things were actually happening in our local community. They were not actually happening right. Yeah, for instance, in my local community, we have lights just let's say twice in a week, yeah, for an academic environment. So how do you expect students to function in that kind of space where there is no stable power supply, and a lot of things were actually going on wrong, and we felt that okay, we just needed to give our best and impact the community while we are still there. And so that was how we actually started DANI Africa basically. And since we started in 2020, basically during COVID-19, it has been a wonderful and exciting journey for us, because we've been able to actually learn a lot of things, and we've been able to impact local communities in Nigeria. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay. So basically, Dani Africa, we're actually a legally registered non-profit organization in Nigeria with Corporate Affairs Commission. And so all we have been doing is just to ensure that we promote, sustainable development in rural and underserved areas, like I said. And basically, we started with Nigeria, especially in our local community. And we have been doing this through, advocacy, civic media, partnership, and inclusion. So far we've had series of programs that we have actually, organized that has been specifically built for students, for youth, for women, and elderly persons in the community. Um, just last year, we have one of the largest garden of youth in Ekiti State in Nigeria, where we are able to bring speakers from different sphere of life, yeah, in the media and entertainment, in politics, leadership, in media and development space, and in business and entrepreneurship, yeah, who actually, attended the event um, to inspire and motivate young people in the community on what it takes for them to lead action to promote development in their local community. Next slide, please. So basically, based on the topic today, I'm a data journalist, like I said, and as a data journalist, I basically work with data, yeah, because data is something that is very interesting, and data is actually the new oil of the world now, and it's something that if governments can pay attention to, it can help them to actually make policies that are people centered, yeah, based on what they have been able to get about a certain community, group of people, or any location. So today there are about 1.2 billion young people, and they are aged 15 to 24 years, and they account for 60% of the global population according to United Nations. So basically, the active engagement of youths, in sustainable development efforts is very central if we want to actually, achieve SDGs. Yeah, because we need an inclusive and stable society. Yeah, that actually considers, what the youth are doing or what the youth are supposed to do. So if we want to actually solve the problem that is bedeviling our world, and basically, problems revolve around, we have climate change issues, or we have unemployment, we have poverty, we have gender inequality, we have conflict and migration. Yeah, basically in Nigeria alone, we have about 87 million people who are poor, who cannot afford $1 per day. And now World Bank is telling us that before this year runs out, that about 7 million people are going to be pushed into poverty because of the rising inflation that is happening in Nigeria currently. And this is not something that is a good signal at all. Yeah, at all, because aside from poverty, a lot of youth here, are unemployed. They cannot get a stable means of income to provide for themselves. And even talking about that, here in Nigeria, students are being.
Samuel, just to interrupt, you have one more minute, please. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, let us use that actually happening to youths, in Nigeria specifically. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so basically, if we are being intentional, yeah, looking at all the problems that the world is facing today, yeah, the youth actually have an active role to play. If we want to promote sustainable community development, yeah, and that will mean that, okay, fine, we need a productive workforce, yeah, that is sustainable for economic engagement of youth, yeah, because basically the development of youth, into a productive and committed workforce, boils down to quality education, skills development, adequate opportunities for productive employment, and 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 a lot, and this is what is actually going to help the youth to become more productive. And even as it relates to health and health promoting lifestyle, yeah, we need to ensure that there's inclusiveness, and we have equitable opportunities for all youths. Yeah, because this is what is going to actually help us to to inspire change in our local community. And also, I'm talking about protective environment for development. Basically, there has to be an environment that that supports youth. Yeah, not an environment that tries to frustrate everything we're trying to do as youth, to make sure that our community becomes a better place, yeah, for all to actually live. Next slide, please.
Samuel, just a second. Let's get back to your presentation also in a bit, and because we are really short of time now, I have to go to the next panelist. I'll get back to you.
Okay,
So
no problem.
now we'll go to Chibna. Chibna, and skipped to introduce you earlier. Chibna is an engineer, innovator, and entrepreneur building for global processing through the creation of smarter cities and communities in Africa and beyond. He co-founded Chiro Incorporated in Nigeria as Kiru Energy Limited, a sustainable energy startup enabling progress through renewable electricity and digital technology. Holds a Bachelor Engineering in Chemical Engineering from the from the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, and where he nurtured his interest in renewable energy, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. Chibna, I'm going to give you the presentation rights to share the screen from your side. On the bottom center of your screen, there's an icon which has been added. You can use that to share your screen, and your 5 minutes presentation starts now.
Confirm if you can see my screen and you can hear me.
I can hear, Chibna, can see your screen, but your volume is a bit low.
Can you hear me clearly now? Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you clearly. All right, just go ahead with the presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for the opportunity. I'm really appreciative of this platform to share my ideas on how we can build a better future by inspiring youth engagement in the SDGs. So without wasting much time, I'll just go straight to my slides. So how can we mobilize youth engagement in realization of the SDGs? The first thing is the SDGs are the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and there are 17 of them. And first of all, awareness is very, very important because when we increase the awareness of the SDGs through stories on social media, we can reach a lot of young people who are always on social media. You can see the statistics there that over 93% of young people between the ages of 14 and 22 are always on social media. So that means that social media could be a very great tool we can use to raise awareness, because when young people don't know about SDGs, then there is no way they can engage in SDGs. Another thing is we need to create opportunities for career development and advancement in line with the SDGs. So my story is that I stumbled upon the SDGs while I joined the university, and I decided to to chart a path for myself by aligning with SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy, right? So because I was aware, because I got information about SDGs, and because I saw a need to participate in this in SDG 7, I decided to pick a career in that regard. And therefore, if we create opportunities for young people for career development and advancement in line with the SDGs, then they will surely get involved. Another thing again is mentorship. Youth inspire youth and also youth train youth. Most of my investment in the sector, in the energy sector, is because I've seen and I have people who I look up to, and I have people who mentor me and who push me to, to go beyond where I am currently. So because I already see people who have achieved the things I aspire to achieve, I'm encouraged to go for this particular project or this particular dream to achieve them. So mentorship is very, very key. So if you can provide mentorship for young people, surely they will be involved in the SDGs. Another thing again is reward. We need to support youth participation and projects in the SDGs, because when you support youth projects and engagement in the SDGs by rewarding, by giving awards, by supporting them with financial resources to carry out and execute their projects, you are also governments and organizations by doing that to increase the participation of young people in SDGs. So by seeing that there are benefits in participation in the SDGs, young people will keep keen to it and get involved. So the major barriers in youth engagement in the SDGs include difficulty in accessing financial support for youth projects and activities. For myself, from my experience, when I started my company and in terms of trying to execute some projects, we applied for many grants, and sometimes the grants are not sufficient, and the process of getting these grants are quite difficult and arduous. So you can imagine that if someone is not very persistent, the person can end up giving up on the idea of participating in that particular project. Another thing is lack of awareness of SDG platforms for engagement. So for example, I believe that EUTech can create a youth platform where they can promote the engagement of young people in the SDGs, such as this webinar. It's a great way to encourage that awareness creation, okay? And then other governments can do more in terms of creating SDG platforms for young people to engage in. Another thing again is difficulty in getting visas for international SDG related events. Youth from global south mostly affected. And that's the truth. Most times when there are international events where young people from the global south are invited to areas like Europe and America, it's very difficult to access visas to participate in these events. So many young people have complained, so many young youth activists in SDGs have complained about this issue, and it's getting more serious every single day. So I call on governments, I call on embassies to ensure that they grant visas to young people who are involved in the SDGs, especially for SDG-related events internationally, because this international cooperation and international participation in SDG-related events will foster global cooperation and improve, the participation in SDGs on a global scale and help us realize the SDGs by 2030. So my recommendations are this. Education is very, very key. Incorporating SDGs in school curriculum will enhance, the understanding of SDGs and their related topics for young people, starting from the cradle, from the schools, up to university level, and then encourage young people to participate in SDG research. I was part of the Global Youth Energy Outlook Research hosted by Spirit Energy last 2 years ago, and it was very, very important to see how young people's perspectives can be reflected in the energy transition. So with SDG research, we can bring a lot of young people to participate in this regard. Another thing again is sufficient funding. So we need to create systems that provide seamless access to sufficient funding for young people, especially for their youth projects and activities in the SDGs. By providing sufficient funding, we can encourage more youth participation in the SDGs. Entrepreneurship, to empower young people with entrepreneurial skills and to create solutions with business case. So what I mean by this is that SDGs are not just for advocacy. There are suggestions for us to create solutions, to address climate issues and other societal issues and other environmental and economic issues that we face globally. So by the time we can create, and the only way to create these solutions are by using a business case whereby the economy is improved and people's lives are also transformed. So empowering youth with entrepreneurial skills will help them to create solutions with the business case and thereby solving these problems in an economical way. Another thing again is to address the challenge of the visa discrimination. So today I'm speaking up against visa discrimination in local and international platforms for young people who participate in SDG-related activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shibna, and for sticking also within the time frame. Now we'll move to our next panelist, Anthony. Anthony, please, I'm going to mute myself, share my screen, and when you see your slide up, please check the.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so thank you for the introduction, and Thank you, other panelists, for your insightful presentations. My name is Anthony, founder and CEO of Tunipashe. Building a better future, inspiring youth engagement in SDGs is what we'll be looking at today. And next slide, please. So these are outlined for the presentation. Who is young, about Tunipashe Energy, what are youths doing, opportunities, why the youth, challenges, what is stopping us, prospects, the road from here. Then I will conclude and take the questions. Next slide, please. So who is a young person? The UN has said 15 to 24, age 15 to 24. Those are the young persons we have in the world today. But they also recognize that different organizations have their own description of who is a youth. For example, the African Youth Charter says 15 to 35, and UN Habitat 15 to 32, and so on. So by November 2022, the UN has projected that there will be 8 billion persons in Africa, in the world. And out of these 8 billion persons, 33% will be aged between 15 and 35. So this gives us, next slide, please. This gives us the group of people that we are dealing with, the group of people that we need to empower to carry the SDGs. So about Tunipashe Energy, as was introduced, we are a renewable company in Nigeria, born out of pure passion, and our team is a team of youth. All our team members are youth who are engaged in energy planning, energy education, awareness, and advocacy. And on that, we convene Tunipashe Sustainable Energy Talk every month, where we bring in industry experts, the youth, the government regulators, and just to have a discourse about the challenges we are facing in terms of achieving SDG 7. So the 4th edition of this up in by the 21st of this month. So you guys should look out for that. So those are our contact details in case anybody wants to reach out to us. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are youth doing? That's an interesting question, because this is what youth are doing. We are talking about youth engagement now. So this is what youth are doing. Youth are carrying out awareness. Youth are demanding. Youth are in energy. Youth are youth are doing what they can within the resources they have to make sure that the SDGs are being attained. Are we doing enough? Definitely, we need to do. But with the challenges we are facing, the youth are in the forefront. My brother Chibuna mentioned what his organization is doing as it pertains energy, and the first speaker, Samuel, also mentioned what they are doing in terms of advocacy for the community. So these are what youth are doing. Youth are out there trying to put themselves out. So next slide, please. Next slide. We don't have time. Okay, so why the youth? Youth are agents of change. Youth have the strength and the tenacity to push for what they want. Innovators, youth are leaders, youth are critical thinkers. In Nigeria, an interesting thing happened in 2020, which showed the capacity and the ability of youth to demand for change. And actually, the picture to your right is the EndSARS protest that was carried out in the country. And you could see the mammoth crowd there. Everybody out there is a youth who demanded for change, and they got what they wanted. So this shows us that youth have the ability to carry out this change that we are talking about. Youth can achieve the SDG goals, and they need to be engaged more. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges that are stopping youth from achieving this? My colleagues have mentioned finance. Yes, that is the key part of it. For a youth organization, a youth company trying to start up, you must meet the barrier, the finance barrier. Definitely, companies, organizations, banks will not want to push your idea, but what can you do? You have to start, do whatever you can wherever you are. So there is lack of education and awareness. Like I mentioned earlier during our discussion before the main event started, the people that really need to be reached are not on the social media. They are not even aware that there is a platform like this, issues about SDGs being discussed. So lack of education and awareness is really a challenge that is stopping from achieving or being fully engaged in the SDG. Another one is lack of youth-focused policies. The policies of the government does not favor the youth in any way. You have to get to a certain stage, you have to be of a certain age before you can enjoy the things that pertains to SDGs, or you can participate fully. So the other one is these are the poorer of all the demography you have in the world. Because of the various challenges, sometimes they have to take up the responsibilities of the family from an early stage, an early age, and that debars them from even they're basically trying to survive. So there is also the cultural biases. We are still having issues where girls are being made to marry early and so on. You can't do this in this community, you can't do this, it has always been like this. So these are the challenges that youth are facing. And the other one, the biggest one, like as I mentioned, there is no data. You may want to find out something about somewhere. You can't move because the access to data, especially in the global south, is really a challenge that is preventing youth from achieving being fully engaged in this. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so what can youth do? What can we do? Youth should take the driving wheel in politics these days. Of course, we've seen the awareness, especially in our country, Nigeria. Here, there is the awareness that youth need to be engaged in politics, and so youth can take action in politics. They can also join NGOs and learn about activities within the NGO sector as it pertains to what they want to do. And youth can also show up, basically, just be there. For example, we had this event, youth showed up. So youth should learn how to show up and demand that their voices be heard, because Galen said you can't if you are not present. You have to show up first. And 80% of success is really showing up. So youth have to start showing up for themselves. Youth have to show up for their communities, they have to show up for their families, they have to show up for their companies, have to show up for the SDG goals. So next slide, please. So the road here, what can we, what is the prospect now? So youth can come up, youth should push for community mobilization. When they look at the challenge of the age, we say, oh, it's so big, it's so big, that is this and that. So for example, if who are dealing with energy, focus on energy, and we are able to achieve energy efficiency as 7 in our community, at least our communities can say, okay, we are no longer having energy challenges. Another person takes up the one that talks about health. There are about 17 SDG goals and over 169 targets. So each of us can pick one of the other and see what we can do. So we can forge partnerships and demand to be heard, seek out knowledge and share, become SDG advocates, and address inequalities in our communities and in our circles, and launch social media campaigns. Thank you very much. I think that's it from here. I'll be ready to take questions later.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation, Josh. And now I'll welcome the last panelist. Sorry, Anthony, thank you for your presentation, Anthony. And I'd like to welcome the last panelist, Josh. Michelle, please, if you can add Benedict to the SDG webinar task on your side, that will be grateful. We'll be joining to present the 3 certificates in 5 minutes. Michelle, if you can support me in that. And then Josh, I'm going to mute myself to limit background noise. And then when you see your presentation, please take the stage. Thank you.
Great. Okay, excellent. I can see the presentation. Great. So greetings from my part, and it's actually wonderful. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah,
Great. Yeah, great. So it's wonderful meeting you guys, and it's always, a bit interesting when you're the last presenter and you have brilliant, colleagues on the panel, and they probably touch on everything, and then you're asking yourself, okay, what am I going to touch on? But we'll try to move on. Next slide, please. So that's just a brief of my foundation. So first of all, the SDGs, you've been talking about the SDGs and how young people can engage in the SDGs. And it has been a narrative for me that is actually, trended and needs to be continued. However, we are looking at how best young people can leverage, their capacities, in the market's perspective or the business perspective. So we can look at green businesses, for instance, understanding the SDGs. First of all, you need to ask yourself, how can you, get to know more about the SDGs? And one, looking at the market aspect of it, you can channel your studying through green businesses. You can get involved. There are several green business organizations where you can build capacity. You can also look at youth-led civil society organizations. There are quite a number of them. And this is all, an avenue to build capacity, because there's an interesting conversation, mostly from the older folks, and especially those in policy making, and then we keep telling them that we want to sit on the table, and they also keep asking us, do you have the right capacities? When we give you the seat at the table, can you contribute meaningfully? Because it's not just about coming on board because you're a young person, but it's about coming on board with the right capacity. And so if you don't have the right capacity, then you become redundant. And so within the market perspective too, we can look at grants, and the other presenters talked about grants. For me, I always say that accessing the right grant or the most suitable grants is quite a challenge for young Africans. Sometimes it's not about the grants not being available, but it's the requirements that you have to go through, like the procedures to access the grants, that makes it quite complex. So we at least we try. We have to keep pushing, and we know that definitely there's always a time where things will be stabilized. Next slide, please. Yep. So the key challenges. I think the other presenters touched brilliantly on the key challenges. So we look at resource limitations, not necessarily funding limitations alone, but you can talk about reading materials. You can talk about access to internet, to research. You can talk about technology. You can talk about conducive environment to be able to even learn about the SDGs, because the SDGs, if you look at most people that are actually vulnerable to the challenges that the SDGs, in general, as we're trying to solve, pose, you find out that the vulnerable communities actually don't have, that kind of good environment to be able to learn, understand, the context in which they're supposed to adapt to the SDGs, the context in which they're supposed to understand that this is what the SDGs mean. And this is quite unfortunate, but we're still moving on. So we also look at funding accessibility complexities, like I said earlier. Sometimes you ask yourself, so if you're asking a young person to tender in, an application for a grant, and then you're asking several indicators, what is your project going to do here? What is your project going to do there? And do you have an auditor? Come on, these are young people. And sometimes it gets frustrating because you find a young person with a brilliant idea, and the only thing the young person actually needs is some level of guidance. And you can just issue the grants and then keep track what like assess the young person's implementation of the grant. other than right from the first stage, you have to make it so complex for the young person. And so that's something that is quite challenging, and especially for young people from the global south. And one thing that's very interesting is patent, gaps. I have friends who actually have been able to innovate brilliant ideas in terms of actualizing the SDGs. But one big thing they complain about is how patenting laws and policies don't favor them, because if a young person is able to come up with a brilliant idea to solve any of the SDGs, and then there is that challenge in patenting gap, then the young person feels that, well, I might just have to keep the idea to myself, because if I probably push this idea to the government or to maybe any other investor, then my idea will now be taken away from me, and I'm just a young person. And we know what usually happens in this part of our world, like Africa, for instance. You know how bureaucracy works. So it's a big challenge, but with young people like us on this panel, we have to keep pushing, we have to keep changing the narrative, and that should work for us. Next slide, please. Yeah, so with the recommendations, first of all, say capacity building, and capacity building in the right context. This image is actually brilliant. When I saw it, I was like, okay, this is actually what we should be talking about in terms of capacity building. Training, you learn, you acquire the knowledge, you acquire the skills, you have coaches, and you have support, and you develop yourself. This is actually something that young people should leverage if they want to change the narrative, in terms of being able to understand the SDGs in context. And also, the second point is exposure. Honestly speaking, exposure has been a big part of my career, understanding how I can be able to contribute to change. Because if you're not exposed, you probably would be in your own confined zone, and then you feel like, well, yeah, this is what I'm doing. But trust me, I've been to several places, and the exposure alone made me understand that I need to do better. I can look at what is happening in Europe. I can look at what is happening in a different continent, and be like, no, this is what the young people are doing here. How can I, replicate that in Africa, in my community? And this is very important. And one thing that I always talk about is CSO collaboration. I don't know if it's a disease, if I should say, in Africa, that we feel as if we are in a competition, and especially sometimes one organization will feel like, well, I need to access this grant, and when I find this grant, I don't have to tell this other organization. It has to be a collective effort, and that's how come the SDG will be achieved. So if we are not collaborating, then I don't think that the efforts that we are making as young people to understand the SDGs in context will actually be achieved. And storytelling is very important. I think Chibuna mentioned that. It's very, very important. At COP26 last year, we had the Joshua and Ponsen from Gaio talking about storytelling. And I felt like this is very important, because I should be able to understand the context of somebody who is vulnerable, to be able to teach the person, or to be able to explain to the person what SDGs mean, how the person can contribute to the whole global effort towards achieving the SDG goals. Because if I don't understand the context of the person, if I don't understand the story I want to tell, then I'm just speaking in the head. And so that's something that I believe that young people should leverage. Next slide, please. Yeah. And one thing I also say is that you have to get involved. There are several organizations. You can't just stay home and feel like, okay, I know the 17 SDG goals. Okay, I've studied them. Well, I'm going to the community here to just go and teach. No, get involved. You will learn more. For me, all these organizations here, all these platforms here, have contributed to shaping my understanding and knowing that, okay, this is what this organization is doing, like SDG 7 Youth Constituency. I've learned a lot. Youngo, brilliant organization to understand climate change. And the UNMGCY, another amazing organization. Arena Youth, I believe Shibuna is aware of these organizations, and other panelists are also aware. UNSDG Land. Well, for now, I'm working on a project with UNITA, and we are trying to understand how we can innovate UN SDGs Land platform to be able to reach out to vulnerable groups, because not everybody has the ability to access the internet. So how can we take some of these learning platforms or some of these materials from these learning platforms offline so that vulnerable people can understand the SDGs in context? And I'll say LinkedIn. Somebody will ask why LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a brilliant place where young people can actually leverage in order to understand SDGs. There are several companies, there's several ads, there's several posts that you can go through on LinkedIn just to understand. And I always say that one of the things most investors or most professionals believe in is when you have a LinkedIn profile and then you probably speak about what you are doing, you speak about the SDGs, you speak about any of the goals. They feel, okay, this person understands what he or she wants to do professionally, and then, well, he probably or she probably will be serious. Let's engage. If there's any funding opportunity, if there's any capacity building opportunity, then they can access it. So, and one other organization like the United Nations System Staff College, excellent. I've taken courses with the United Nations System Staff College, which has been really helpful, and I would advise that young people take advantage of these organizations. And there are several free courses on these organizations that you can leverage. You don't have to worry about paying. And climate science, for instance, the Olympiad, get involved with the Olympiad. The Olympiad is an amazing opportunity where you can contribute, your knowledge, understand SDGs, understand climate change, understand several other SDGs, so that at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to be able to get funding, which Climate Science Olympiad does, and which could be used to support projects. And so I would say that if we are able, or if young people are able to just understand that there's something called capacity building which they have to leverage. There's another thing called networking. There's also collaboration. Then I believe that the narrative where young people are marginalized can definitely be changed. And so I would say thank you very much to EUTech for this opportunity, and I'll be open to any questions. Thank you. You can connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
I could not have said it any better. Get connected, collaborate, and network. Maybe one final question to our panelists here as we close is that what has been the most impactful capacity building initiative that you've taken part in that has enabled you to to engage better with the SDGs? Please go ahead and unmute and speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Anthony, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I think that's in the area of advocacy, for me, as it pertains to SDG 7, because many people have now, are now in a way of the what renewable energy and clean energy can play the part it can play in the energy mixing in Nigeria and in our country, especially the connections we've made so far. People are now aware of the prospects of the sun, that's what I'll speak specific to SDG 7. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it has been a great discussion so far, very many insights, and I'm glad that we have the face of the youth here today, giving us recommendation on how they can engage better in realization of the sustainable goals. I would like to invite my colleague Benedict, who will issue the 3 certificates in appreciation for being a panel here with us today. Benedict, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Silvana, for having me. My name is Benedict Grütz, as you already said, and I'm Vice President of the European Senate in Brussels. And on behalf of EUTech and the European Senate, I'm very happy to present a little gift for you, dear panelists. As you might have heard at the beginning in the introduction of this webinar, short introduction, we are one of the world's leading tech network with EUTech united by this vision technology obliges. So SDG topics are very important for us, and we started in Europe in 2050 to unite European enterprises and international enterprises behind this vision and to help them to reach the three major goals of EU tech: competitiveness, growth, and sustainability. And the European Senate is like an exclusive advisory board of this network. And so, as you can imagine, climate protection is very, very, very important for us. And therefore, we have an own climate action partnership. And I would like to thank you on behalf of EU Tech and European Senate for your contribution for today's event. We really, really appreciate that. And here we go. Here with the European Technology Chamber confirms that a tree for Samuel, a tree for, I think the next one is Anthony, right? Yeah, Anthony. Chibuna, and for Josh has been planted in Africa by our EU Tech Climate Action Partnership. So thank you very, very much. I really appreciate. Again, I think there were a lot of good points to discuss about further in this SDG Alliance webinar. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that was my short 2-minute part, a little gift from our organization. Thank you very much, dear participants and dear guests, of course. And I think that was my part. And for the honor of the last words, back to you, Svetlana. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Benedict, for presenting the two certificates, and for our panelists for the lively discussion, and also for our audience here today. Feel free to use the public chat function also to leave a LinkedIn connection. And we've come to the end of our meeting here, our webinar here today. The two certificates will be sent shortly to our panelists. It's a bye-bye for me for now. Please look out at the SDG Alliance LinkedIn group for the next activities of the SDG Alliance, as well as the EU Tech LinkedIn group for next activities at the EU Tech Chamber. That's all, and bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Again.